Keep watching. The politics. Every Friday.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
If we can get this, there we go. I'm a reporter, as you can see by my official New York City press card. I write for the Bronx Post, which you have seen our advertisement. We like this show. It is part of Parrot Media Corporation. I have a blog at www.100%.blogspot.com and Facebook pages 100% and what is going on in your local community board. The views expressed on this show are that of the host, any guest, or anyone commenting at the bottom of the screen, and not necessarily that of Parrot Media Corporation. Let's go to a weather report as higher temperatures are coming back. Today, Friday, the high will get close to 40 with some light rain or snow overnight as it gets colder overnight. Saturday, Valentine's Day, the high should get up to 44. It will go down to 41 on Sunday and back up to 43 on Monday. And should be getting close to 50 on Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, let me introduce my guest, Anthony Rivieccio, who is taking time out away from his tax season to be here with me. And Anthony will become the co-host of a new Talking Politics show next week. And you may have seen the new banner already. Welcome, Anthony. Oh, you look better today, Anthony. You look very professional. How are you? I can't hear you. You're muted. Unmute yourself. We'll hold while he's unmuting himself. Let me tell you. Oh, there we go. Okay, how are you?
All right. Don't you just love this 23rd century technology that's 5 minutes late?
Well, don't blame me. I'm here.
I got you.
And I know you were in the room too. Okay. At Mount Sinai, Morningside, and West, and Montefiore Einstein, nurses voted to approve their contracts Wednesday evening and will return to work tomorrow. However, nurses in New York Presbyterian rejected a tentative contract agreement by an overwhelmingly margin Wednesday, voting to extend their strike. Out of approximately 4,200 nurses who were eligible to cast ballots, 3,099 voted to reject the deal and 867 voted to approve it, so they are still on strike. Nancy Hagans, the New York State Nurses Association president, called on the hospital to agree to a fair contract and bring all nurses back to work. The nurses' strike, which began on January 12th, has been the longest and the largest of its kind in New York City. Any comment on the nurses' strike, Anthony?
I feel so bad for them. I really do. To start the argument, which is a legitimate argument, you want higher wages. You deserve higher wages. I don't know if 10% a year for 3 years is high or too little or too much, but that's what they wanted. Once that argument fell through, they started talking about working conditions, employee benefits. And then all of a sudden we got back to the real deal, right? Which was the actual money. Mm-hmm. And it turned out to be a 3-year, 12%.
All right, well, let's move on to some national news. It appears that the UN is reducing its footprint in New York City in recent years, with agencies moving people to other locations. there's a chance for even bigger blows to its presence in New York amid budget concerns prompted by unpaid membership dues of more than $2 billion owed to the UN, primarily owed by the United States. The New York Times, citing senior UN officials, reported that one option is closing its headquarters on the East River. A United Nations spokesman said that it is not speculating on what the organization might do in the future. For now, it is expecting members to pay their dues on time. President Donald Trump pushed back against the idea of a Big Apple exit in an interview with Politico over the weekend. I don't think it's appropriate. The UN is not leaving New York, and it's not leaving the United States, he said, because the UN has tremendous potential. But even if the headquarters stays put, that doesn't mean everybody who works at the UN will. And we're going to move on to, I'll get to Anthony in a moment. We're going to move on to 26 Federal Plaza, where Trump administration attorneys admitted in federal court Monday that they were detaining immigrants on another floor at 26 Federal Plaza. If you remember, we had some of our local politicians, including Brad Lander and Gustavo Rivera. Brad Lander was arrested, and he is going to court soon. Now, their federal judge's order last summer, which mandated capacity restrictions and improved conditions, applied to any person detained by ICE at 26 Federal Plaza and didn't specify a particular floor in a building. But ICE has interpreted the order to apply to just one floor of the building, while conceding it has been keeping immigrants on a separate floor, where government lawyer says Monday they don't have to abide by the judge's restrictions. When the judge asked directly, are you holding them on another floor? Are they being held on other floors? The Southern District Attorney representing the Trump administration replied, the short answer is yes. Now, it doesn't matter, Anthony, what floor they're kept on.
No. As long as they have the bathroom.
Let's move on to Howard Lutnick. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick appeared before a Senate Appropriations Subcommittee Tuesday to talk about broadband funding, but Democrats used the forum to take him to task.
Now, I'm sure when Howard got out of his meeting you're about ready to talk about, I'm sure he had to use the bathroom.
Over his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, which continued even after the late financier had been convicted of sex crimes, Political reports. The Commerce Secretary, who lived next door to Epstein's Upper East Side mansion, professed in October that he had cut ties with the disgraced financier in 2005, years before Epstein was convicted of soliciting a minor for prostitution. But that claim was undermined when the Justice Department last week released a tranche of millions of documents related to the investigation into Epstein. Emails in the files show that Lutnick and Epstein interacted several times after Lutnick said they had cut contact. Senator Jeff Murphy, a Democrat from Oregon, laid out 8 of such instances and cautioned that it was probably not a full and complete accounting. You totally misrepresented the extent of your relationship with him, to Congress, to the American people, and to the survivors of his despicable crime and predatory acts, Senator Chris Van Hollen, a Democrat of Maryland, told Lutnick, though he added there is no indication that Lutnick engaged in any wrongdoing. Lutnick has faced bipartisan calls to resign, confirmed to the panel that he had lunch with Epstein for an hour in 2012, alongside his wife, his children, nannies. He added that he barely had anything to do with Epstein. I don't recall why we did it, but we did it, Lutnick told the committee. He emphasized there was nothing untold about the meal. By the way, are you in the Epstein files, Anthony? I know I'm not.
Well, I didn't go there, but I could be.
Okay, let's move on.
The Epstein files do go beyond Margot, right? Margot Lago or whatever that was called.
Let's go on to one of your favorite topics.
Think the Epstein files come as far as the Bronx?
I wouldn't be surprised if there are some Bronx current or previous elected officials in there. I would not be surprised.
So if we say then, for example, I don't know if you're aware, I think some of your audience might be aware that I understand a high-powered executive from Goldman Sachs, someone second, third in command, who's a woman, happened to resign voluntarily, wasn't forced, but being on Wall Street, I know how that goes too. But basically resigned because they seem to have had a friendship. She seemed to have had a friendship with members of the Epstein family. So you don't think someone that high in Bronx muckety muck circles?
Well,
I
it's
don't
Anthony. Remember, it was reported that our current mayor's mother had ties to Jeffrey Epstein. All right.
Who was that?
Let's move on to another one of your favorite topics, Pam.
Wait, who was that? Wait, who was that?
What?
Who was that?
You don't know you didn't hear the story about Mandami's mother being associated with him? And
I
Mandami.
normally don't listen to rag, but if you got a rag story, I'll listen.
Well, no, that was from the Post.
I'll say it again. If you want to inform me, I'm listening.
Okay, no. Well, I don't have the story in front of me, but
Okay.
let's move on to U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi launched into a passionate defense of President Donald Trump as she tried to turn the page from the relentless criticism of the Justice Department's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files, repeatedly shouting at Democrats during a combative hearing, the Associated Press reported. And if you saw on TV, you saw her yelling at the Democrats, and they were coming back at her. Moving on, the House passed a stricter voter identification measure that would require proof of American citizenship to vote and allow the Department of Homeland Security to seize voter rolls in any state, as Republicans muscle through a measure that is doomed in the Senate but amplifies the president's groundless charges of rigged elections, the Times said. And barring
do you
a...
think Pam Bondi is a competent attorney general, or do you think she's there because she looks good in red?
I don't have any opinion on Pam Bondi. I get her her press releases, as you can see on my blog at 100%.blogspot.com. They come from the Department of Homeland Security, and barring a shocking reversal, Tony, it's all but certain that the Department of Homeland Security will shut down at today's end. Only Fetterman voted with Republicans. Fetterman's a Democratic senator, obviously, to fund the agency, as the rest of the Senate Dems held firm on demanding more immigration enforcement reforms from than the Republicans have offered. They have some things that are really very hard to approve, frankly, President Trump said yesterday. It's an unusual shutdown with just one big agency affected. The vibes are decidedly mixed. Lawmakers of both parties are angry and blaming each other. Negotiations are still ongoing as of yesterday evening per Politico, and yet the lawmakers leave town without a deal in hand. They also face limited political pressure to end the shutdown. This could go on for a while with our agency about to lose funding. Department of Homeland Security.
And I got a question for you.
I got one sentence.
I got a question for you.
With our agency about to
Department of Homeland Security was to close within the next 24 hours. Where would the department of ICE be? Because remember, ICE is still funded. ICE will be funded on Monday.
Then they will continue what they're doing. But let me just say,
where are they going to continue it? You just said the Department of Homeland Security, where their offices were located, will now be closed.
I'm sure they'll be operating out of
So now, where will they be? Is that better or worse? You see how stupid our America is sometimes, right? We now have a department that everybody was mad at, that now nobody's going to control because the Department of Homeland Security is going to be closed, right? But ICE is still funded as per the big, beautiful bill.
Well, let me just say that Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is in Phoenix today for a midday event about election security. And also happening today is the arraignment of Don Lemon and several other people charged in connection with an ICE protest in Minnesota. Now, we're at our time for a commercial. Do you want to say a few words about anything right now before we get into the governor's race and what's going on elsewhere? So anything to add, Anthony?
347-575-5045 if you need some tax assistance. Let's go to a commercial break.
Okay, as Anthony said, Mr. Producer, can we go to our commercial? Okay, obviously.
I'll be late too.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
To the weather report. Okay, here I am. Can we get Anthony back with me? Anthony, are you with me still? Yeah, there we go.
I'm late, but I'm here.
Okay, as I say on Channel 2 News, the reporter was talking, and he was supposed to switch over to the weatherman, and the camera, they switched a different camera on the host, on the commentator, and she's over there combing her hair while she's on air. So it happens to the best of them. This is Channel 2 News. Okay, and you've seen on Facebook all these other things that happen on live TV.
As long as the
live right now.
As long as the producer doesn't take a shot at me scratching my balls, we're all right.
Who do you think you are, Bad Bunny?
That too.
Okay. Let's get to some state news. Lieutenant Anthony Delgado has announced that he's ending his campaign for governor. After much consideration, I've concluded that it simply is no viable path forward, he wrote in a statement on X. Although my campaign has come to an end, I fully intend to do all I can in our effort to build a more humane, affordable, and equitable state that serves New Yorkers. The decision came a mere week after Delgado announced his running mate, one-time Buffalo mayoral candidate, Democratic Socialist India Walton. Until days ago, Delgado had said he intended to petition his way onto the ballot after he did not earn enough support to gain access for automatic ballot access on the state Democratic nominating convention on Friday. Kathy Hochul received 85%. Delgado received 15%. You need 25% or more to be automatically on the ballot. He also decided, it appears that the lieutenant governor did not earn the support of the Progressive Working Families Party on Saturday, a week ago, which may have served as the final nail in his coffin. They have decided to put a placeholder instead, and who knows who they'll took. And Delgado also faced insurmountable polling numbers. He was down 64% for Hochul to 11% for Delgado. Now, with the departure of Anthony Delgado, the decision to quit the race forces Kathy Hochul to forfeit over a third of a $20 million war chest. When candidates are running for governor, they're allowed to get $9,000 per donor for each election. They can get one donation of the size for the primary, another for the general, and Hochul has taken full advantage of those limits, raising between $9,001 and $18,000 from around 1,100 individuals. That money is the money in excess of the general limit, adds up to about $7.5 million that she's going to have to return unless somebody mounts a surprise primary challenge before petitions are due in April, and she'll need to return the surplus to donors. Now, it appears that John Samuelson, the international president of TWU, that represents 60,000 subway, rail, bus, and airline workers in New York, said his union will not back Governor Hochul's reelection amid disputes over labor issues. And we're going to get on to one of Anthony's favorite topics here, as Governor Hochul signed a bill Wednesday to provide a legislative fix for a regulatory mishap that threatened more than 100 cannabis licenses. The Office of Cannabis Management originally told applicants that their businesses must be at least 500 feet from a school, measured door to door, but in an about-face last summer, the agency said it had erred in approving dispensary locations using door-to-door measuring standards than that the law required measuring from a school's property line. That change jeopardized the stores of more than 100 entrepreneurs. The dispensary owners will now be able to stay in their locations thanks to bills introduced by one of your best friends, State Senator Liz Kruger, and Assembly Member Stephanie Zinneman. Any comment on the bill and the signature of?
Well,
Kathy?
as far as the friendship part, I do know them. I wouldn't say we're the best of friends. That's another story. As far as the bill goes, all I got to say about the bill is that it should come with a lighter.
Well, if you remember, I told you Gustavo Rivera promised to get me some good stuff. Well, that was back in December. We're in the new year, Gustavo. When am I going to get this stuff?
Have you gotten it yet?
No, I haven't. And I wanted to see, give you a little bit so you can tell me how good it is.
Okay, well, why don't you sample it for me?
Well, we haven't gotten it. Next time I see Gustavo Rivera, I'm going to remind him. Gustavo, where is it?
Is it a possibility that I might see you before you see Gustavo?
We might. Okay,
then I'll bring you the little pipe so you can sample it.
Well, I don't like this. I've been around you for the past, 25 years?
Probably.
Anthony and I used to play poker together. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I have never. I don't.
We should open up our own cannabis shop, so at least that way we'll have money to reinstitute the poker game.
You're right, and we could have it in the back room. But let's move on to State Senator Deputy Majority Leader Michael Gianaris announced on Monday that he will not run for re-election and instead retire at the end of the year. Gianaris is currently the second most powerful Democrat in the state Senate, behind only Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins. More than 25 years representing the people of Western Queens in the state, in the Senate and Assembly, I've decided not to seek re-election in 2026, Gianaris said in a statement posted on X. Serving as deputy leader has been the greatest. Serving as deputy leader of the state Senate's largest ever majority and highest ranking senator from New York for the past 8 years has been more rewarding than I can ever imagine. Gianaris was considered a contender to succeed Stewart-Cousins as majority leader. His retirement from the Senate clears the path for State Senator Jamal Bailey to take over leadership when Stewart-Cousins leaves that position. And New York State Democrats do not plan to change leaders, though, of the chamber before the end of the year, even after several members announced they will not seek re-election. Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins said this week she told reporters in Albany she will seek re-election this November, even though Senate Deputy Majority Leader Michael Gianaris announced he is not returning. Stewart-Cousins has led the Senate since the party took the majority in 2019. Current chamber rules do not allow one lawmaker to hold the leadership role more than 8 years, meaning Stewart-Cousins' tenure is up in 2027 unless senators change the rules. Stewart-Cousins would not say if she plans to push for a change to allow her to remain the Senate's temporary president. Senator Jamal Bailey is widely considered to be a top contender for a seat, and Senator Shelley Meyer is also on the short list, multiple senators said. It's unclear who could be tapped as the next deputy majority leader to succeed Gianaris. Any comments on what's going on there in the state Senate? Who's coming, who's going? And maybe this is why Senator Bailey didn't take the lieutenant governor's position. He feels maybe I'll be, the head of the Senate majority in 2 years. And if you remember, Pedro Espada with the Gang of Four, what were they called? The Three Amigos, rather. All right, Senator Pedro Espada was once the temporary chair of the state Senate. So nothing to offer, Anthony?
No, I think it's fascinating. It's also normal in some cases where people sort of get the power positions rounded up. The only reason I say it's fascinating in some ways is because, yeah, in the next 3 to 5 years, you could be looking at a possibility where Carl Hastie will be in charge of the assembly, Jamal Bailey, which I think the greatest endorsement was actually through Kathy Hochul, believe it or not. That's my own opinion, where Kathy offered him the lieutenant governorship, and he turned it down, knowing that maybe in the next 3 to 5 years, Carl's protege will now be in charge of the Senate.
Well, Wednesday, Kathy Hochul dashed off to Suffolk County to counter budget proposals that aim to make car insurance more affordable. But while she was out in the burbs, the two men serving the main obstacles to her biggest goals in 2026, one political, one governmental, were laying groundwork to stop her in her tracks. From Albany, New York's fresh-faced mayor was reiterating his plea that Hochul needs to abandon her promise not to raise income taxes, but Zohan Madani's tax the rich request was kneecapped by his miraculous discovery that the city wasn't in the same doom and gloom scenario he laid out 2 weeks ago. In fact, that harrowing $12 billion city budget deficit has sounded the alarm that he sounded the alarm about. Now looks more like $7 billion deficit, he said. I'm glad
Bob, I think it's amazing. I think it's absolutely amazing. Commissioner Tisch, Police Commissioner Tisch, and I'm going to blame some of you guys too. Some of you media guys spent the last year following the mayor's BS. Oh, crime is down. Crime is down. Crime is down. And now they had no other choice. They had no other choice but to make it public. And the only reason why I think it's public now, in my humble opinion, is because Commissioner Tisch slipped. She slipped.
Well, we're going to get into her. We're going to get into
it public. She couldn't take it back. To me, this is the same exact situation.
Well, we're going to get into that later. And Anthony, I beat up on Mayor Adams in July of 2024, and that led to my suspension from the 49th Precinct Council, I believe, among other things. So as former secretary of the 49th Precinct Council, all right, when you have positions and you fight for the, more police, you can't be on both ends. But as I said, meanwhile, in Nassau County, County Executive Bruce Blakeman formally accepted his party's nomination for governor as the 3-day New York State Republican convention wrapped up. In Blakeman's acceptance speech, which followed a video of Trump praising his record, he ripped Hochul for leading a state that continues to struggle with affordability and out-migration. This is about comparing my record of success to Kathy Hochul's record of failure, Blakeman told supporters, after his running mate, Madison County Sheriff Todd Hood, gave his first public remarks to the campaign. I refuse to accept that New York's best days are behind us. We can fix Kathy Hochul's crisis. We can make New York affordable again, and we can make it safe again. Now, across the street from where the Republicans were holding their convention, Democrats were holding a brief early morning rally that served as counter-programming to the Republican convention. We are here to say Bruce Blakeman will not succeed. We will succeed in New York City. Former City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams, who is seeking statewide office as Hochul's running mate, inexplicably told her Long Island supporters. It was too bad that Adams is in Nassau County when she said here in New York City. So someone should give her a roadmap of the New York State. After the rally, Adams was unable to answer questions from Playbook about how she felt about the Republican main attack on her candidacy as a council member and speaker. Adams voted for and later defended a bill that would have granted non-eligible non-citizens the right to vote in city elections. The measure was thrown out by the state top court last year, but Republicans have sought to put the bill front and center as Hochul runs for re-election. Now, it's questioned whether how many of these people who were not not residents or not citizens voted in the previous election. But we're going to move on to Commissioner Tisch now, as we're going to run a little late here. Police Commissioner Tisch on Tuesday delivered a 2026 State of the NYPD address, highlighting the department's new strategies to keep New York safe, invest in accountability and training, modernizing policing. Today, this announcement came as the NYPD delivered the safest year ever for gun violence in 2025, with fewer shootings, incidents, and shooting victims in recorded history. Last year saw major crime declines in all 5 boroughs, as well as the lowest index in crime in subways since 2009, excluding pandemic years. Now, here is what the police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, is going to do to the Bronx. Now, I said to Mayor Adams, when there was a shooting up in Haffen Park in the 47th precinct, I said to Mayor Adams, this precinct has over 3,400 crimes, reported crimes last year, all right, in 2025. And the whole borough of Staten Island had less crimes than this one precinct. And yet there are 4 police precincts in Staten Island and only 1 in the 47th. So Commissioner Tisch is dividing the Bronx into 2 patrol boroughs. For the first time ever, the Bronx will be divided into 2 patrol borough commands, Bronx North and Bronx South, starting in the spring. The change will bring nearly 200 additional police officers to the borough, strengthen the NYPD's ability to respond to the different needs across the neighborhoods, and add specialized units into the borough, including homicide squad detectives, evidence collection teams, narcotics teams, neighborhood safety teams, and auto crime units. Currently, the Bronx is organized under a single patrol borough and 1 leadership structure overseeing every precinct, while in Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens, each have long since moved to 2 patrol borough commands to handle the volume of work there. Now, the way it's going to happen here in the Bronx, the South Division will be the 40 through 45th precincts, which run through the South Bronx and into Throggs Neck, City Island, and Co-op City. So Co-op City, up at the northernmost part of the Bronx, will be in the South Division. And the 46th to the 52nd unit precincts will be in the North Division. And there is no 51st precinct. Now, let me
Bob,
give you...
I know we might be running a little late, so I want to say something about this, but I'm going to try to be very short, and at the same token, maybe kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We're going to be having a new show next week, and what I'm hoping to do with my segment of the show is to talk a little more about the power and lack of power of micro county government. So, for example, community boards. Now, the only reason I'm bringing this up now is because I'm going to use your community board as a perfect example of what you just described as a layer of waste. Okay? Your community board, and you said this on your show over the years, has had both an executive board and a leadership board. And it's had it for many years, right? It's had it for decades. And now in the last year, your community board has decided quietly, right? Because they didn't announce it or anything, but they decided, okay, we're going to keep the leadership. That will be our executive board. And we'll not, and we'll get rid quietly of the other board. What am I suggesting? The same thing. What you just described was another layer of government, another layer of bureaucracy. South Bronx, North Bronx. The numbers are the numbers. All you're doing is reshuffling the numbers. Solve the problem.
Well, the thing is, the captain of the 49th precinct was at the Pelham Parkway Neighborhood Association meeting this past week, and she said as soon as we get new officers, they're taken away for other details. For instance, in the spring, you'll have Yankee Stadium, you'll have Orchard Beach, and other details. Now, and I did an analysis of the crimes. In the Bronx South, there were 15,258 crimes in those 6 precincts in 2025. These are reported crimes. In the Bronx North part, there were 15,000.
Yeah, but wait a minute. You're speaking up for your deputy inspector.
No, wait. Let me finish.
Let me ask you a question. If we got your deputy inspector, or better yet, can we call your deputy inspector and ask her to come on this show and make a public pronouncement for more people?
Well, this was every precinct.
Do that, or is she going to be willing to do? From what I understand, she's been very popular with photo ops in your area. She's getting very good at the posing. Is she willing to come on this show and publicly advocate for more cops?
Well, we do that. I've done it with the mayor. I did it with Mayor Adams.
This is her precinct. This is her. It's not your precinct. It's her precinct. Is she willing to do that?
I will ask him. Okay, let me continue though. Okay, the Bronx had a total of 30,314 reported crimes. And I'll get to why I'm saying reported in a minute. In Queens, Queens South had 11,126 crimes in 9 precincts. And Queens North had 15,272 crimes in 8 precincts, for a total of 26,399 crimes in 17 precincts. Bronx has 4,000 more almost. In Brooklyn South, there were 14,905 for 13 precincts. Brooklyn North had 16,086 in 13 precincts. So in all the 26 precincts, there were 30,991, maybe 1,000 more than the Bronx. And they had 26 precincts. Manhattan South, 16,837 in 10 precincts. Manhattan North, 13,450 in 12 precincts. 22 precincts, 30,287 crimes, less than the Bronx. We don't need to have North and South, or if we're gonna, we need more precincts. We need to add a precinct or 2 in each of the divisions. It's not fair. She's saying we need to have 2 North and South because all the other boroughs except for Staten Island are divided.
I don't disagree with it. I don't disagree with you at all. But what I think you're not doing in your analysis is, we can't speak for the other boroughs unless you've done the analysis. But here in the Bronx, we already know that the numbers might be correct, but the analysis isn't. What I mean by that is this: Tremont Avenue, Grand Concourse. Simple question: is that north or south? I know what it was up until 2025.
If it's the 46th precinct, it'll be in the North Division. Like I said, Co-op City is in the South Division.
So prior to 2026, prior to this edict, it's always been considered a southern area. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't care if it's north, south, east, west, whatever. But when you say Manhattan North has this number, well, do we really know today if it's the North or not?
Let me just say one thing. This is reported crime, Anthony. When Bill de Blasio was mayor and Dermot Shea was his police commissioner, I asked Commissioner Shea, okay, this is reported crime. How much crime is not reported? And his answer was, well, there's no way to gauge how much crime does not get reported, but I can say much crime gets unreported, goes unreported. Okay, so we can probably take at least 25% and add it into those numbers, especially in the Bronx, maybe 30 or more, because somebody, if their car is broken into, they're not going to report it. They're going to just fix the car. And, why? Because their insurance rates will go up. People, if they're accosted on the street or they ask for money, they're not going to, they'll say, here's $5. Meanwhile, that's,
again, I'm not disagreeing with you either. But again, you could look at this in a variety of different ways. If you took all of the prior marijuana busts, right, that no longer are considered busts, right, because marijuana is now legal, right? So if you took those old nuts, so what I'm saying basically is you've now taken a crime and you've decriminalized it, right? Yep. So the numbers have no other choice but to go down. Right. So when you tell me they're still going up, what does that tell you?
Okay, let me just
that simple math.
All right, let me finish with these few items. The estimated value of New York State Common Retirement Fund was $297.8 billion at the end of the third quarter, fiscal year 2026. The March 31st audit of last year, the value was $273.1 billion. It had an estimated growth of 2.4%, the controller said. Now, is that a good growth for the New York State Pension Fund? You're shaking your head no. We'll get into this in a future show then, okay? Because I have some more.
Let me just say quickly, because, and I'm going to try to say this as non-political as possible, because when you talk about the controller, in my opinion, when you talk about the budget, in my opinion, when you talk about this situation, in my opinion, you're talking investment practice, investment performance. To answer your question very simply, I'm sure all employees of New York City, New York State would like to match the same amount of interest that they could get at a place called Wall Street or at a place at their own financial institution, whether it's a big bank or a local bank. Right now, people are getting 15 to 20% a year in stock related accounts. Now,
exactly what
true. Now, yes, it's true. There could be some mandates on the money, some restrictions. Again, now this is where the politicalness comes into play. But very simply, I would say that is a terrible performance. And what makes it even worse is that it's not an anomaly. Because if you look at their financial report year after year after year, they have had bad reporting, bad performance, I should say, for the last several years. And guess what? Part of that bad performance is that a firm like mine, right, has been charging the city abnormal fees. Abnormal fees to help them with bad portfolio management.
Millions of dollars. All right. Department of Motor Vehicle offices in New York will close later today.
Something there, Bob? Could you tell them I'm available to give them bad performance management?
All right, let me continue. They will close today until Wednesday for technical upgrades. Next item is the New York City death toll from the recent stretch of extreme cold has risen to 19 after a man was found unresponsive on the street under the Manhattan Bridge Tuesday night, a City Hall official said. And rodent experts say the prolonged cold weather in New York City could kill some rats and cause other rats to have fewer babies, resulting in a smaller rat population in the spring, the New York Times writes.
I don't believe that. My landlord is still alive.
And Molly Wasso Park, the head of New York City's Homeless Services and Public Benefits Program, has submitted her resignation to the Mandami administration. And confronting a grim picture in his second month as mayor, Zohan Madani no longer intends to back the growth of the $1 billion plus initiative known as City Chefs, despite a plan passed by the city council and upheld in the court, the Times reports. And Mayor Mandami is expected to announce that his administration will build bus and bike lane projects in his predecessor's administration derailed like Fordham Road. Now, the mayor is going to he's in the Bronx right now. I would have been there, but we have the show. And I wonder if Councilman Oswald Felice is going to be there because he's the one who derailed that Fordham Road bus lane. So we'll see what happens. I know, I don't see our friend Kevin Diola commenting, so he must be there. And I'm going to end with this because this has been going on for weeks now. This is a photo of a woman, the co-president of the Bronx Republican Club. Her name is Rochelle, pointing her second finger to Jumaane Williams. Now, the Bronx Times public advocate Jumaane Williams approached the group. Here's the Bronx Times article. Okay. Public advocate Jumaane Williams approached a group of 3 women, but one called Williams a liar and flipped the middle finger as the group left. And there's a comment on Facebook from a Miss Diana Finch to Irene Estrada. As long as those opposed to Just Home continue to act like this article documents, giving Jumaane Williams the finger because they don't like what he says, you are going to have a real challenge in your fight. Now, I've had Rochelle on the show. We're seeking answers from the Bronx Times. We're seeking answers why they are not printing a retraction. Okay, this is the reporter Emily Swanson who took this photo. So she sees that there's no middle finger. It's a second finger. If I'm pointing to you like this, Anthony, am I pointing my middle finger at you? And Emily Swanson can be reached at eswanson@schweppsmedia.com, or here is her phone number to call her and tell her to print a retraction, 646-717-0015. That's 646-717, that is 0015. Tell the Bronx Times, tell this reporter to print a retraction, and that's it for me. Anthony, anything to conclude?
Thank you for having me on the show. make sure when you call her that you say Robert Brett said hello.
and let's not forget, next week we're going to have a new format. Do you want to talk about the new format, Anthony?
Real quickly, we're going to have a new format. And Bob, I want to thank you for working on popular demand. It seems like people want us to work together. I wanted to put a little more of a different type of meat on the show. So instead of ham and cheese, we're going to put ham, cheese, and a little bit of salami and pastrami. So that pastrami is going to be, again, as I said, more micro local base. So you heard me mention community boards a moment ago. It's not just going to be community boards. Maybe we'll talk about precinct councils. And because we have 10 districts in the Bronx, we should talk about all 10, whether they're community boards or precinct councils.
Wow.
Talk about what they do, what's happening within that community, and certain projects that are that could be at that community board's attention. And even if we want to, maybe compare some of the procedures and policies that are taking place with different community boards now versus maybe how it was done at another time in another place.
Okay.
So that's what I'm hoping to do with what I call the middle segment of our new show. We haven't named our new show yet, so people call Bob and give Bob a name for the show.
And, well, let's just say it's going to be the new Talking Politics. And I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank my guest, Anthony Rivieccio. And that's it for today. We'll see you on
Talking Politics mean we'll be on time?
We'll see you next week.
In a world where the quality of information available to poorer communities is doctored, tainted, and sometimes regressive, where the words fake news have come to mean other people's opinions, it is vital to rely on news platform with journalists who have feet on the ground and can report the truth. New York Parrot, a New York-based national and global news outlet, is changing the narratives of media operations. We focus on the news that matters, like self-empowerment, entrepreneurship, finances, health, security, politics, and more. We strive to curb violence, racial and economic discrimination, and to promote peace and socio-economic development of multiculturally diverse world. As we give voice to the people, we also give your business a voice and make it heard. Get your products and services off the ground by advertising on our fast-growing platform. With so much of daily visits to New York Parrot, you can't afford to be invisible to prospective clients on the website they trust the most. Our posts reach millions of people across the New York State and around the world. Advertising on our news site will unlock an audience of thousands of potential customers on your doorstep. New York Parrot is born to prosperously speak tomorrow for the voiceless.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
Keep Keep watching. The politics.